Before leaving on a round-the-world trip, Paul Hoffman, president of the Ford Foundation, outlines plans for the Foundation's new overseas program.
Yesterday, the trustees of the Ford Foundation authorized the expenditure of $5 million in overseas activities. A group of us are starting out on a trip which will take us pretty well around the world. We're visiting Pakistan, India, and other countries. It's our hope that we can find projects which we can support financially, which will help perhaps make for a better use of resources in these countries and for better understanding between the free peoples of the world. We think that such understanding is vital if we are to maintain peace and perhaps create conditions for a permanent peace. I'd like, if I may, to just read a very brief statement in which we make clear the aims of the Foundation in this area of peace. In this statement we say that every effort must be made to create the conditions of peace, not only as an end, but also as a means to human well-being and social development. These efforts include the strengthening of the will to peace by all forms of education and enlightenment, the improvement of existing international agencies and the willingness to devise new ones, the increase of understanding and sympathy among the peoples of the world, the reduction of the economic causes of international tensions, the support of universal disarmament under effective international controls, the acquirement of greater understanding of our differences with other people, and the examination of the possibilities of resolving those differences, the promotion of the endeavor by the people of the United States to develop and maintain a maturity and steadiness of national conduct proportionate to their world responsibility.
I'm leaving this afternoon for Berlin with other officers of the Ford Foundation to attend an academic celebration at the Free University of Berlin. I've been invited to deliver the principal address on the occasion of this celebration, the reason for which is the very substantial gift that has been made by the Ford Foundation to the Free University of Berlin.
The Ford Foundation of America donates $1,300,000 to the Free University of Berlin. Professor Hans von Kress, head of the university, expresses his thanks. The funds will enlarge the institution.
Einladung Folge geleistet haben. Anwesenden Studierenden mit besonderer Herzlichkeit die 18 amerikanischen Studenten, die für 2 Wochen Gäste unserer Universität sind.
Paul Hoffman, president of the Ford Foundation and former ECA head, addresses the gathering.
Trustees of the Ford Foundation to announce a gift of $1,309,000 to the Free University of Berlin.
The audience is pleased. Speaking as an associate director of the Ford Foundation, Dr. Robert Hutchins declares that people all over the world seek peace and that it can be achieved with the help of free democratic institutions of learning.
Wir sind bestrebt, den Willen zum Frieden durch Erziehung und Aufklärung zu kräftigen.
Paul Hoffman, director of the Ford Foundation, is welcomed at New Delhi in India. He is studying how the foundation can best aid projects to help people in various countries improve their living conditions. At the shrine of Mohandas Gandhi, Hoffman observes a traditional custom by removing his shoes. Then he offers a floral tribute to the memory of India's great leader. At a conference with top Indian leaders, the head of the Ford Foundation gathers information about projects in India which might be assisted. India's President Rajendra Prasad is host at a reception attended by Mr. Hoffman and his staff. Also present is Prime Minister Nehru. Before leaving, Mr. Hoffman admires some Indian handicraft. Plane arrives in Hong Kong with Paul Hoffman, director of the Ford Foundation. Accompanied by his associates, the former ECA chief is touring Europe and Asia. On his trip through Asia, he is studying how the foundation can best aid projects to help people in various countries improve their living conditions.
As a result of a recent exploratory trip, we at the Ford Foundation are now developing a program of experimental projects in India, Pakistan, and the Near East. With an initial authorization of some $5 million by our trustees, we hope to have a start made in late November. Our program will, we hope, supplement the efforts of our government, the United Nations, and other public and private agencies already at work. Everything we saw and learned on our trip convinces me that India can still be saved from communism. The problems in these areas are staggering, but the people are working hard for their own salvation, and there is every reason to believe that progress can and will continue. If there ever was a situation where a reasonable amount of aid from the United States can pay huge dividends, it is in these countries now. They desperately and urgently need a sharp increase in agricultural and industrial production, and they need technical assistance, and some direct aid from us will bring this about. We can, if we pursue a wise course, also make staunch friends of the Indians and Pakistanians. In Pakistan, the attitude of all the people toward Americans is already one of extreme friendliness. In India, the attitude toward Americans is generally friendly, but there is hostility on the part of those who have communistic leanings or who resent the West. The need, of course, is for better understanding of America and a better understanding on the part of Americans of the complex problems faced by India's leaders. Their problems are magnified by the fact that some 13 languages are spoken and by the lingering effects of centuries of the rigid caste system. But they are helped in meeting these problems because the spirit of Gandhi lives on with almost unbelievable intensity. There is real vitality to their democracy. In the Near East, which we also visited, it is very evident that the situation is fluid, although there is a great deal of unrest. It is fortunate indeed for the free world that surpassingly fine leadership has put Turkey well on the road to becoming a modern democracy. Further, the Turks have decided to align themselves with the West, and there is no faltering about it. In other countries, this decision has not been made. The Near East Foundation has been doing very effective work in raising the standards of village life, and the Christian colleges in the area are making significant contributions to better understanding of the ideals of Western civilization. But much remains to be done. The distrust and suspicion of American motives in parts of the Near East, as well as in India, grows out of a century-old bitterness directed at us because we are mistakenly identified with the Western imperialism of a bygone generation. The Russians are, of course, expert exploiters of all bitterness and distrust. But the United States and the other free nations can overcome distrust and suspicion by helping these people overcome their problems. This is a task in which the United States must take the lead.
In New York City, Freedom House, an organization devoted to the advance of freedom, honors Paul Hoffman, former chief of the Economic Cooperation Administration. He is introduced by former Secretary of Defense George C. Marshall.
Freedom House is concerned with the maintenance of freedom and with the maintenance and perfection of a free society. As Mr. Cole stated, there never has been a time in our history when there was more need for such concern than now. The liberties which our forefathers called the inalienable rights of men are under attack everywhere. When we rest our case for a free society on its capacity to fulfill the deepest needs of man, we are saying that a free society is right and good for all men, everywhere, because their nature as men demand freedom. And we are proclaiming to the whole world that we want it not just for ourselves, but for mankind.